This is Andrew for CollectionDX.com taking a look at Combiner Wars First Aid. Now with First Aid, he is similar to how Streetwise is a remold of Dead End. First Aid is a remold of Off-Road, essentially like a complete reshelling of the other figure. The only thing that I can tell is exactly the same on both would be the thighs, the lower body, the groin here, the biceps, the upper arms, and the combiner joint in the middle. Other than that, everything else is different. Even the chest has the two chests have different detail, and they transform into similar looking but still pretty different trucks. Instead of being like an old box van, First Aid is much more like a first response kind of vehicle, like an SUV. So, but he does look very nice. He's got the blocky Scramble City style head that's fairly cartoon accurate, and nice little blue eyes and painted silver mouth plate. He's got sort of the same deal with as far as articulation goes as with Off-Road, where you've got free moving arms that just kind of have these arm shields that bang into the backpack here, but you can just leave this flipped out if you want a little bit more motion. In fact, if you leave it flipped out like this, that's a bit more like the old G1 toy where you just had that big slab of the front of the ambulance just on the back there. And he's got nice full moving waist joint, hips, thigh swivel, and knee joints. And he poses as well as he needs to, especially since he's more of a medical guy and not a fighting guy. Although the fact that he is a remold of Off-Road means that instead of a battle axe, First Aid has what I like to call the medical axe. So I'm sure you could be like, oh, this is like a fireman's axe. You can break down doors and get to people in need of rescue, but I just like to think that this is actually a surgical tool that he uses to persuade Blades not to go off and get himself hurt again. But no, it's a neat idea. And with the parts, like there used to be holes here on Off-Road's arms for mounting the axe, but you can actually just stick it down here on the leg on First Aid, and it actually looks a lot better there. That's like where you would actually put an axe. And he has his own version of the combiner hand-foot gun thingy. This is a recolored version of the one that comes with Off-Road. It's just sort of like an engine block looking thing that's molded in black and has a little red there for the joint itself, and it just fits nicely into either hand. So he's I think he's one of the less exciting of the Protectobots, at least in robot mode. He's functional, he looks good, but I think the only problem that I have with him is he's got a little bit of a hollowness, a bit more than Off-Road, just because of how he is a slightly more filled out vehicle, but he doesn't quite have an increased plastic mass to go with the greater volume that he's got going on there. But anyway, let me go and transform into vehicle mode, and we'll see there's a couple of changes that they did with First Aid. So First Aid shares his engineering with Off-Road, but the order of operations changed a bit as you're transferring him into vehicle mode. So what you want to do is start off by just clicking his lower legs together and bringing this out to expose the two joints in here, and you want to bring all of this up, and there's a tab that consists of like both halves of the rear of the vehicle that just go into a slot in the back there. And when you're doing this, you actually want to bring the front part of the feet down first. So make sure this is all smushed in there, and just line up the sides of the arms. Here is a tab that goes in, and there's basically a little slot here that's going to go onto this tab. So you actually do have to bring the lower legs in first so that you can fit all this together. Same thing on this side. You just want to bring this down and put that in like that. Flip his head around. And with the front of the vehicle, there's actually some tabs, or basically a little part that sticks out that will go into the slots on right in here on the other side of the head. So again, that kind of brings first aid together a lot more tightly in vehicle mode than even off-road. But just be aware that when you're transferring him, you want to work these out a little slowly first before you kind of bring this whole part back, because you don't want to break anything as you're doing the transformation. But anyway, here is first aid. It's just a nifty little first response style vehicle. Again, he is a lot different than off-road. I mean, obviously, you know, they do share a bunch of bits of engineering, even things like their wheels, but these are still two very different looking vehicles. And even in a way, first aid looks like a much bigger vehicle, like based on the size of his windows and all that. But anyway, pretty good, you know. Nice, another solid Combiner Wars vehicle. You kind of have to make sure everything is together to make sure that he rolls on the ground. Although these wheels can't quite catch the smooth surface of my backdrop here. And you can store both of his weapons in vehicle mode. Just put the axe on the side there, because every pacifist needs to carry an axe. I suppose he's only a pacifist sometimes. And like with off-road, you can stick the hand thing on top. There's basically a... Actually, you want to leave the thumb part out. There's a little tab up there that goes into a slot in the knuckles. So now he looks like a tricked out, sort of hot-rodded rescue vehicle. But yeah, it's just there. It evokes the original toy where it had those big old dual cannons that went on top. And it's still nice that you can actually like put stuff there. And it also looks like he has like places for those 3mm clips, but I actually haven't tried attaching anything there. But anyway, he's got some rails on top. So, time to move on to first aid as a limb. So traditionally, you usually see first aid as an arm for Defensor, and we're going to change that scene from the ultimate weapon and actually have first aid join his buddies as part of Defensor. So to start off again, you want to pull this forward a bit to get those tabs out of the slots. You want to bring his arms out first, so you disengage the other set of tabs and slots on the side there, bring his arms all the way out, and basically you're just going back into robot mode. And you want to bend his forearms backwards. Now we did see this on off-road where there was this tab on the side here, and that actually will fit onto slots in the back here. And on first aid, these actually work pretty well. They kind of keep everything in place. You can see it's not flopping around like it was on off-road. And it just kind of keeps his own arms out of the way when he's working as a combiner arm. So just pull this part down, bring this back, and line these all up. And here we go. This is... Oh, actually you want to do it like that. Anyway, but this is first aid's arm mode. And just slide him in to Defensor's shoulder. And here we go. Alright, so here he is as an arm. He looks beefy, and I noticed in like any configuration that first aid was always going to look a little bit bigger than blades as an arm, and that's just kind of how it works. But, you know, he's a nice full range of articulation. He's got pretty much what's supposed to be a double joint with the elbow by using the waist and knees of the base figure. But it kind of only goes up half, like 90 degrees, because of how bulky the forearm is. You know, it moves pretty well. I think my only problem with it is that the top part of the forearm kind of comes apart. There's enough tabs in there to keep everything together, but really they kind of only stays at the bottom of the arm. So this will stay together as you're moving it, but it will come untabbed up top. So that's kind of the only issue using first aid as an arm. But other than that, he does his job, what he's supposed to do as a Combiner Wars limb. Alright, so let's finish off with leg mode. So I'm going to finish this off with leg mode with first aid, which, if you recall, it's actually how they had it with the original Generation 1 toy box art. So all you do is transform him more or less halfway back into vehicle mode. So bring this all together, push these in just to make sure they're in the right place, bring that down, leave the combiner joint up like that, pop these off of the little tabs on the side, and then line up those tabs with the ones on the legs, ones from the forearms to the legs, and just kind of work that in like that. And I have to say, like, one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of these transformations on camera is just to show how easy it is to work with the Combiner Wars toys. I mean, that's one of the things I'm having a lot of fun with these guys, is just transforming them back and forth, combining them, taking them apart. You know, it's just really fun, easy, and intuitive. And here is First Aid as a leg. It makes a nice beefy leg, and here's Blades as a leg as well, just to show you that, you know, he looks all right down there, although not as beefy as any of the big vehicles that he works with. So First Aid has no problems moving. He doesn't get hung up on hot spot at all, either moving with the knee up and down like this, or twisting with the joint. Although I guess it doesn't quite twist this way unless you pop this part of the vehicle mode up. But just pretend this is like a knee guard and less of a permanent part of the lower leg. But anyway, we've been building up to it. The next review is going to be Hotspot and, of course, Defensor himself. So this has been Angel for CollectionDX.com. Thank you for watching.